It appears we finally got a balance, am I right? Hello everyone, welcome back to From the Deck, and today we are going to review the balance. I already seen it. I was trying to record a live reaction, but then hours happen and I don't think that is actually a good idea. So instead I'm going to analyze quickly the format and try to understand what is going to be the new format. What are the decks that we're going to see on the newest events that we're going to have. So, with the three events, Union Carrier, Utopix Exile, and of course the very funny dragon, we can ensure now that formats with slow gameplay, formats where monster effects could not be activated, or formats when you just couldn't special summon because of Manatee's Majesty or whatever the freak the card is called, we can have a more heavy combo oriented format. We can think of the Dragon Link era basically, because that's probably the best deck right now. Dragon Link was never bad, just they couldn't play games 2 and 3 because Virtual World and Rytron have better goings as a second and third game. So, and of course, with limited Benten, then you don't kill Rytron. The Rytron is a very good strategy as well. It just goes a little bit slower. If you manage to get out of the Benten, get rid of the Benten, then you just basically win the game. That's the only thing that you got with Benten. But apart from that, the deck can do still whatever it used to. Virtual World can probably still manage to play. I mean, the deck is not dead, it just lost its boss monster, which was probably the least problematic card in Virtual World, let's be real. So, I think that deck is going to be the same deck as always, but instead it's going to leave a Destruction and a Macrocosmos on field, with probably one or two hand traps on hand. That's basically still the same deck. But yeah, Virtual World and Rytron are still as good as they were before. They just lost one resources with Rytron, and the other one the cherry on top basically. But without those resources and the cherry on top, Dragon Link can come back because Dragon Link was always good, and they just lost basically the booster rock. It came back, but they lost Union Carrier, so what's the point? Now, I'm going to say this right now because a lot of people is going to bring this out. Dragoon is not a problem. Dragoon by itself does nothing. You can see it here in the TCG. Dragoon is not a card that generates a degenerate deck an advantage. Yeah, there are certain decks, but it's not the problem with Dragoon as much as it's the problem with the rest of the deck. Because if you put it into context, if I just Dragoon Pass and I am playing Calians, for example, then you just get rid of the Dragoon with the negate and then you just basically decay me, of course. But if you go into something like, I don't know, Subterror or Dragon Link, which have more 4, 5, 6 negates in a turn, then it becomes a problem. So I don't think Dragoon is actually a problem as much as it is the rest of the cards around it. And I think the fact that Dragon Link is still around is going to be a little bit not beneficial for Dragoon, but beneficial for the game. Because it ensures that the game recovers some speed that it lost when combo decks went extinct with the previous format. Now, this is my point of view, but I prefer a format where I play under certain floodgates or certain limitations, for example BFD, than a format where I play or I have to play through 5 negates. Sure, Dark Ruler no more is a card, but then you just have 3 copies of it. And with most of the players like me that doesn't possess something like Forbidden Droplet, there is not an option to play against 4 or 5 negates a turn. I didn't have a lot of trouble with Virtual World. I never showed a game with Virtual World, of course, because I play very little games against it. But for example, Burn the Beast can play just fine game 1 against Virtual World because Virtual usually calls lag because your deck is usually Drytron, but Burn monsters just trigger in the graveyard, so that's just perfectly fine. The problem is games 2 and 3, that was really the trouble. And now, with this new format, since game 1, if I don't win the dice roll, I just lose. So the fact that these decks that usually don't rely on having a going first or going second strategy, but instead rely on being able to play basic loads without any interruption. They lost all of the power because the decks that were topping, or the decks that were more popular, the most popular, sorry, are now just dead, and instead we have all of this Emborn Negate stuff. But that's just my rant on that. Aside from that, I think the rest of the ban list is pretty much okay, decent. Firewall Dragon is going to do absolutely nothing. People is a lot theorizing with the Salamangreat, the Firewall Dragon, but I don't think that's ever an issue. Rusty Bardiche just ensures that you can play Pot of Extravagance in pure PK, or if you want Pot of Disparity, that's also true. And the best card that came out, in my opinion, is Inister Prominence, the Blasting Record because I was a Pendulum player and I absolutely loved Inister Prominence. And not once per turn spin, that's actually kind of awesome, am I right? So yeah, this ban is good. I like the formats where I can play, but I don't think this format through 5 negates I can play, basically. But we will see. If the format grabs up speed, then I might do a little tweaks here and there with some decks, but we will see around it. Best deck of the format, probably Dragon Link, as I said. Followed up closely by probably Virtual World with some new patterns. And then after that, Cyberdark, because of course the Cyberstyle, the structure that got announced, and that is absolutely awesome. But we will talk about that structure deck when it comes out. Unfortunately, I could buy 3 copies of it because I actually want to play Cyberdark so hard. So thank you very much for joining in tour today, and we will see you on the next time. See you.